Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thanks for stopping by to watch. Got a mixed bag of stuff to talk about today, but it's really all connected. There's just so much happening, and so many people are really waking up to realize that this is bigger. It's a growing little monster, you know, that is much bigger than a lot of people thought it was or could be. And that this is not some kind of transitionary, temporary, you know, downfall of the economy and the food supplies and, you know, just the everything, right? Where people are it's starting to sink in that this is serious. And I think some more long-term thoughts and preparations are starting to take effect. And we're gonna talk about some of the stuff that's happening, some of the things that we're doing. A lot of exciting stuff going on, even though there's some really bad things happening around us in this world. I want to mention to you one of our satellite groups here in Missouri is having a meeting this weekend. It's in Arnold, Missouri, which is South St. Louis. So if you live in that area, I will not be able to attend, but the people that's putting this on have been attending our meetings here, and so they're kind of learning and going up there and starting their own meetings. And so if you're interested, that's this Saturday in Arnold, Missouri. You can contact Amber by this email. It should be popping up somewhere down here below. Contact Amber at this email. And they've already had some meetings before. I've gotten feedback from the people that's been there. Some of the people that were at the last meeting came to our last meeting this weekend, and they really enjoyed it. So there's things moving and shaking up there in kind of that St. Louis area. So, you know, South St. Louis, if you're over in Illinois, maybe even Southern Indiana, Kentucky, because of where it's at, you know, it's not too far of a drive for some of you folks even over the state line. To kind of meet, get to know each other and plan and learn, and we'll just create community and connections, because that's really important. And I think more and more people are realizing the real importance because of what we're going through right now. This isn't just your normal, not that it would be normal, but this isn't what most in the preparedness community have thought about in the past, that, oh, what if the economy, you know, crashes, or the dollar hyperinflates, or if you know, there was nuclear war, or if there was a volcanic eruption. And while each one of those incidences are extremely devastating, and they would all individually present their own difficulties in surviving in different ways to kind of prepare for it, what we're seeing happen here, and my mother said this, so I'm going to quote my mom, it's like they're attacking us on all fronts. It's just coming in at all sides. And so how do you prepare for just a collapse of everything? How do you prepare for the very possibility that in not too long of a time in the future, we could truly be just completely on our own, that there's no system around us to any kind of support, that there's no infrastructure, there's no supply chains. It's getting to that point that a lot of people are starting to think, you know, as extreme as these possibilities sound, they're becoming more and more realistic. And, you know, every day in the news, there's just more stuff. You know, I mentioned yesterday, while I was talking yesterday, about the wholesale inflation numbers. The wholesale index inflation numbers went up, and I said, you just watch, the consumer one's going to go up too. And sure enough, today, boom, consumer price index increase. It's just every time they release the new numbers, they're always going up, and they're going to continue to go up. And this number here is certainly not an accurate number. I mean, they're saying, it's the highest inflation's been in 30 years. Yeah, it's probably higher than that as far as 30 years, but this number, 6 whatever percent, that's not the actual inflation. You all know this. This is based on this new way of figuring stuff, and they don't add certain things in. And, you know, inflation isn't bad if you take out food and gasoline and, you know, lumber and, you know, all that. You eliminate all those things, and inflation doesn't look quite as bad. It's ridiculous. But the point is that inflation is continually going up. we're paying a lot more. We all know that. The ability to get goods, just because of the supply chain slowdown and near collapse, is becoming a more real thing. The amount of businesses and manufacturers and retailers that aren't able to get a lot of goods, the waiting list for stuff is ridiculous. We're kind of dealing, it's small, but we're dealing with that here. We have a washing machine that is still under warranty, and a part on it stopped working, and I called them, and I kind of knew what they were gonna say. Of course, it's under warranty. They'll get a new part, and they'll either send it to me, or I can take it to some guy and they'll have it, fix it. No charge to me at all, except they don't have any kind of clue of when they're going to get the part. In fact, they called me back just a couple of days ago or so, and they said, we have tried 5 different manufacturers that would make that, and all of them, they have no clue. They have no clue when this part will even be available. They're not even giving any kind of possible dates. Is this going to be a week or two? Is this going to be months? Is this going to be for the rest of eternity? They don't know. And because they just have no clue. I don't know why particularly this part. It doesn't matter, because this is happening all across the board. In the news, all this, those ships out there of California, and you've heard all this stuff. Oh, well, maybe they'll go up to Oakland. Oh, maybe they'll go to Florida, other places. A lot of those options that we hear about of moving these ships around aren't as realistic as you might think. It's going to take a lot more for the logistics of moving these big ships all the way across to the other side of the country, and moving the trucks over there to pick up the stuff, and the fees and the fuel and all that kind of stuff. And in California, they're saying there's a record number as of today. A record number of ships are setting off the coast of California. If you remember back, I believe in March, maybe, I was talking about this, and we were at that time talking about 20, 30 ships, and then I remember talking about 40, 50 ships, and then I remember talking about 70, 80 ships. Now we're well over 100 ships. No end in sight. No end in sight. There's all these different things out there that are talked about of possibilities, but the fact is, it doesn't even really matter anymore. Why? It's happening, and it's not going to go away. And on top of all these things that are going on, the inflation and supply chain and all this, our food supply and the stuff that the government and these major corporations are doing and wanting to doing is just, it's insanity. At a time when everything is so fragile, at a time that everything is so stressed, the supply chain is so stressed and obviously not able to keep up, we're going to just make things worse. And I'm not going to go deep into this, because another amazing YouTuber has covered this very extensively, and you guys had just bombarded me with emails and stuff letting me know, which I appreciate. But Ice Age Farmer, you probably all know who he is. If you don't know, you should know. You need to go over to his YouTube channel and subscribe and watch his latest video. And he's talking about a proposed carbon pipeline that they're going to cut right through the breadbasket of the United States, starting up in the Dakotas, through Nebraska, I believe, and across Iowa. They're talking about uprooting and bulldozing and doing eminent domain on thousands and thousands of acres of some of America's most fertile cropland. This is just insanity, considering that the whole world right now is going through, maybe not an extreme, but definitely a crop problem and food shortages. There's certainly areas that crops and farming this year did really well, but in other areas, not so much. And then the proposed outlook of next year is going to be much worse, because they're talking about major fertilizer shortages, extreme increases in fuels that are used in farming, the lack of getting the parts. I've talked about this several times, the lack of of getting the parts for farming, just random parts that you need to repair equipment and to keep things moving, tires, all this other stuff that's becoming hard to get, and when they can get it, they're paying substantially more money. And so the whole agricultural industry right now here in the United States and across the country is very strained. I wouldn't call it to the point that it's complete catastrophe, but it's definitely getting close to that. And then when you start adding in, increased costs in a lot of these areas, ridiculous pipelines that are cutting right through, valuable farmland, and the lack of employees, it's the outlook over the next 12 to 24 months when it comes to agriculture doesn't really look so good right now. And so when you add the potential of there being some major crop shortages, not enough being produced to take care of the needs, along with all this other stuff that's going on, it's not looking so good. And it's amazing, though. It's amazing how it lines up so perfectly with the United Nations predictions on famine of biblical proportions. It's amazing how it lines up so great with, Agenda 2030 plans and zero carbon emission plans by the globalists, the Great Reset plans. It's amazing how the stuff that's happening lines up so perfectly with their stuff. And I think it is something to be concerned with. Anyways, the video that Ice Age Farmer put out on this, it's his most recent one. I'll try to remember to put a link down below. You all should know who he is. Certainly go watch his video. The guy puts out some of the absolute best information out there on these types of subjects. So certainly watch that, and then think about adding all that into everything else that's already happening. And one starts to realize that this is a much bigger animal than probably a lot thought in the first. Some of you had it right. Some of you knew exactly how bad this was going to get. But I think a lot of you thought that, well, hopefully, we'll recover from this. Hopefully it won't get so out of control. I really didn't have the idea that this could be much bigger than it is. And in fact, it is. It's becoming horrific when you start to step back and you look at all the things that are happening and realize the path this could end up at, where we could end up. It's pretty scary thinking. And so that's why a lot of people are starting to take their preparedness serious, very, very serious. Not just serious in the sense that, I'm going to spend more money on food. I'm going to cut back in certain areas, cut certain things out of my life so that I can shift those funds over to buying food or to buying, medical, first aid, blah, blah, blah. People are getting serious to the point that they're uprooting and they're moving out of the places that they once lived. I have, in the past few months, I have personally met with, and I've talked to over the phone and over email, with people that lived a very nice, you could say, plush middle-class life. They had great jobs. They lived in large, beautiful homes, drove really nice cars. And they sold it all so that they could buy a good, secure, fertile piece of land and maybe live in an RV and drive an old pickup truck and do it so that they could get themselves completely out of debt but yet be very self-sufficient and be very secure. Their life isn't luxurious anymore, but they're getting back to kind of the roots of how we're meant to be. We're finding that more and more conversations are being happening. That's what's exciting and what's going on here, and it is happening in other places. I'm getting the emails and starting to see communications between folks like myself and people in other areas that are doing similar types of things. Realizing that a community and networks of communities is really important. The conversations that are starting to be had it's really kind of mind-blowing. Let me give you some examples. What happens if things really get bad and the doo-doo really does hit the fan and we don't live any longer in a society, in a world that we've been used to? What happens when, say, the husband dies, leaves a wife and kids, and there's no way for that wife and kids to really take care of themselves anymore? How does that work? If that happens today, there's government programs. There is somewhat of a community, usually churches, different groups, nonprofits that can kind of jump in, even though it's tragic and it's tough. But what happens with a situation like that when all that doesn't exist? And so that's what some of the conversations that I'm seeing have in this community. Would it be people coming in and saying, okay, you could just move to our property and now we're taking care of you? What about people that really have things to offer when it comes to, what's in their mind, what's in their heart, the ability, their physical abilities to do it, but yet they just can't find the land. Maybe they don't have the money, or maybe they just can't get, what's available. Of people working out, the possibility of sharing a land with someone, of some kind of work lease type of thing. These are conversations that are having because people are realizing the severe importance, the real serious importance of having people around them that are like-minded, that think and believe like themselves, and that will help each other out physically, that will help each other out in defense, that will help each other out in true survival. These are the kind of conversations I'm starting to see happen around here, and it's really exciting to have these. There's hardly a day that goes by now that in some media form, whether it's all the way from being in person talking to someone to telephones, texting, emails, something, that there aren't conversations being had like this, and people are realizing that what many of us believe, or we're moving into those end times, those days of Noah, that it's bigger than just having a stash of food. It's bigger than just having a firearm and so many rounds of ammunition. This is critical. We are watching the collapse of our civilization. I believe many others believe this also, because this is really happening on a global level. And because of that, people are realizing that our preparedness levels and just being ready for the unknown and being ready for to have to survive that, it's going to take something a little bit more serious than what a lot of people had thought in the past. And having that network of communities and people around us that we can depend on, and that we can help take care of each other, help defend each other, is very critical. And so I think that's why we're seeing things really move and shake here in the Ozarks, in a lot of places and around the country. I'm hearing about it down in Texas. I'm hearing about it in a few other places, that people are starting to kind of wake up and start to put things together. So it's exciting, and at the same time, it also shows the real seriousness of this. I have been what you would consider a prepper for well over 20 years, and gone through 9/11, 2012, hysteria, the Y2K stuff. I've seen all that kind of stuff, and I've never seen a point where people are realizing that this has to be a real next level thing, that people are really uprooting and moving and talking about really hard subjects, really serious things, because they realize that the situation that we're in is really that serious. So folks, that I hope that you're able to do that. I hope you're able to do something to get your life in a place that you are more prepared. And my big hope and prayer is that watching a channel like this and the others out there that are similar is part of what's helping you. Because if this isn't helping you, then I don't even know why I'm on here. All right, folks, thank you for watching this. I do remember you folks in prayer a lot, because I know that there's a lot out there that are scared and that are trying, and that at times kind of probably teeter-totter on that going to hopeless side, and we can't allow that to happen. We serve someone much more powerful than anything that's happening right now, and no matter where we end up physically, we know where we're going to end up someday in the end, and that's really all that matters. All right, thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.